How do you do this? You need to establish a control framework, provide strategic direction, and define the investment portfolio. So if you look at the approach, the life cycle approach which I was talking about, the key principle is we need to pick the winners from the projects, the plethora or the number of projects we have. So there is an idea submission, there is an opportunity, you have a business case, you need to make the plan of work, and then based on that you decide on the project and start the project. You have the project execution, you monitor this project in each of these phases, and there are best practices for each of these areas. And you also set up the right infrastructure for this. If you look at the next aspect, the next IT process pertaining to portfolio management, the goal is align IT-enabled investments with an organization's strategic objectives, and it tells you what are the key things you need to do. If you look at the next one pertaining to this, it says at the lowest level there is a project which gives you a structure of activities, which my friend talked about before me. A structure of the activities concerned with delivering a defined capability based on agreed schedule and budget. Then you have a set of projects which are called as programs. You have grouping of these projects designed to provide the business value, and at the top you have the portfolio management, which focus on the enterprise value. Now if you look at the fundamental principle of investment management, the goal is to ensure that individual IT-enabled investment programs deliver the optimum value at an affordable cost with a known and acceptable level of risk. It tells you how do you do this, what are the key things you need to do. It also tells you there are 3 key components of investment management. You need to have a business case development, which means you select the right projects, because if you don't select the right investment programs or projects, then I think ultimately you will result in bad investments. So you need to have a system of program management, which is managing execution of the program, and you need to have a system of benefit realization. So you know that you've derived benefit from that particular project. While IT recognizes there are different types of investment, and it categorizes business in terms of these key areas, there are opportunities, business opportunities, where you test innovative ideas with no certain payback. There are certain projects which are like this. Research and development, these are programs providing measurable business value. Okay, there are IT infrastructure investment projects where you're implementing for the long term. You have business growth, where you're creating new assets for growth in the business volume. And you have projects to sustain. And you also have projects which are mandatory to take care of the legal or mandatory requirements. What is important is you need to categorize them as imperative and discretionary. So you find the first 2 of them, at the bottom, sustaining and mandatory, are imperative projects which you need to do. And the next 4 are discretionary projects. It's important to recognize that there are different strategies for dealing with this type of different class of assets. Let's look at the benefits of the validity framework. This gives you the key concepts or the best practices of the validity framework in one particular screen. Now, if you can read and understand this, you will get an overview of what validity talks about. The beauty of this is it gives you in a very, very simple way what you need to do for project management pertaining to IT focused on delivering value. Based on my experience, I know most of the companies in Dubai have excellent project management techniques. What validity focuses on is extension of this project management techniques to ensuring business value. So you find it talks about establish, informed, and committed leadership. It looks at define and implement the processes, define the portfolio characteristics. Like that, you have a set of practices which are given. So overall, you find there are about 30 plus practices which are there, which you can actually implement. Most of the cases, when you want to implement validity, you find probably you might be doing 20 to 25 of them. The key is to identify the gaps and see that those gaps are plugged. Now, if you're able to plug these gaps, you find you're actually in tune with the international best practices, which help you in ensuring that the projects are effectively managed to deliver business change or IT-enabled change. Quite often, optimizing IT value is a real balancing act. You need to synchronize between the business and IT. There are discretionary costs. Now, if you look at the type of the costs which could be there are costs which could transform the business, grow the business, run the business. And there are also non-discretionary costs. So you need to take a close look at each of them and decide where you are exactly investing, why you are investing, and how to ensure that you are getting value from these investments. And what would happen when you implement the concepts of validity is you are able to optimize the investments from IT, which means from the project which are there, you can pick up the winners based on the business case. So you do the this one, analysis based on the cost, based on the resources, based on the time. You also analyze the risk, and then look at the benefits, the imperatives, and then take a final decision which project has to be rolled out, how do you manage this, and how do manage this through the economic life cycle of the project so that the benefits are realized. One of the key things I think which our speaker also earlier referred to was to decide when to kill the project. And that's also part of the validity management process. Now, those of you who already used COBIT, who may be familiar with COBIT, would like to know how validity integrates with COBIT, and if I'm already using COBIT, how does it help? You find this a good idea. You find the validity initiative is a value lens into COBIT. It's at one level higher than COBIT. It focuses on the three concepts you talked about: project management, value governance, and investment management. And it primarily asks 4 fundamental questions for any issue or any IT investment. Under this, you have a set of activities which you need to implement, and that is given in COBIT in the 4 domains: the plan, organize, acquire, implement, deliver, support, and the monitor and evaluate domain. And this is what is given in COBIT. If you want to use COBIT primarily from the point of value delivery, if you go to COBIT online, it tells you for the purpose of value delivery, what are the key issues? What could be the key issues or problems? It tells you there could be project failures or delays, significant budget overruns, low levels of user satisfaction, evaluation of IT investments. So this gives you a list of what are the high risk, what are the medium risk, and what are the low risk. If you go down further, you would like to implement COBIT from the perspective of value delivery. It tells you from the 34 IT processes, these are the processes which you need to implement. It starts from PO3, do you know what is the technology direction and how do you envisage what technology is required for you? It looks at the management, IT investment for this one, managing quality, and it gives you a list of all the processes which you need to have. Which means, if you want to implement COBIT from the perspective of value delivery, you don't need to implement COBIT fully. You can actually pick up and select the best practices of control objectives from COBIT in this. Again, let's say we're looking from the point of performance management. You want to use COBIT from the perspective of performance management. It tells you that these are the key issues or themes categorized in terms of high, medium, or low. And it also gives you a list of the processes which you need to implement within the organization, which should be focused on ensuring that you have a system of performance management. The business value from IT, the final tips. What is important to ensure business value from IT is an essential component of IT governance. No investment, whether IT related or not, should be undertaken without the full knowledge of the expected cost and the anticipated return. And the expected return should always be related to the risk. So you need to manage the risk and the return. You also need to ensure that the right projects are approved in the first place, because if you don't approve the right projects, you will be paying a heavy cost in the near future. It's also important that you have a clear project management methodology so that you can track how the projects are running. You need to embed the portfolio management techniques as a part of your organization. It's not something you do externally. It should be part of your system organization culture. It's also important that this process needs visibility, leadership, and commitment from the top. So it means the top management says, this is the system you're going to follow, and there's not going to be any deviation unless there is an absolute necessity. So it means the top management supports the concepts of project management based on the validity principles. What could happen is, using validity best practices helps you in ensuring business value of IT, which could result in business performance, getting better return on IT investments. Money always has a value, but during the times of recession, this becomes much more valuable. Money becomes much more scarce. Now, if you're able to use the readily available framework, the best practices which are given in validity, you find it becomes much more easier for you to ensure value delivery from IT. So thank you. I hope I have been able to deliver value within the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rafiq. The next event for today is a panel discussion. Dr. Yahya Al-Sharji is going to conduct a panel discussion. Let me introduce Dr. Yahya. Dr. Yahya is a Vice President for Events, Education and Services, ITGAF, and Senior Controller, Information System Audit. Dr. Al-Sharji was educated in the UK, where he completed both of his PhD and Masters in Information Technology Management. Dr. Dr. Al-Sharji is also a CISA and CGEIT. He was one of the recipients of Dubai Economic Research Award in 2008 for his publication entitled The Role of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprise Owner in the Adoption of Information and Communication Technology in the UAE. I would like to invite Dr. Yahya and all our speakers today, please come to the stage and have your seat. Thank you.
I would like to introduce additional member who had no chance to speak prior to this discussion. He's Mr. Nalin Wajitelak. He's the president of the ISACA UAE chapter, and he's a senior banker and heads business continuity functions at Rock Bank UAE. His expertise are in the areas of business process reengineering, strategic planning, quality management, project management, risk management, and business continuity management. Mr. Nalin is a graduate of industrial engineering, where he has done his MBA from a leading business school in Sri Lanka. In addition to his portfolio, he has got a long list of prestigious professional qualifications, such as CISA, which is a Certified Information System Audit, CGEIT, PMP, and so on. Currently, Nalin is doing his PhD, and he's also a lead auditor in ISO 27001. BS 25999, which is a business continuity management, and assessor for Dubai Quality Award. Please welcome Mr. Nalin. And also to give Nalin the opportunity to be the first to speak, I'd like to put the first question to him. Mr. Nalin, you being as an expert on business continuity plan, can you just tell us, according to your expertise and your own field experience, what is the level of preparedness among companies in terms of disaster, in terms of business continuity? You can rate between 0 to 10.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning,
Assalam.
ladies and gentlemen. It was a very challenging question to me. Before I get to the point, let me briefly tell what business continuity is, because it is very relevant if you are talking about IT governance. Whether organization is a manufacturing organization, like Dubal, some of the members are here, or even manufacturing sweets or cakes, or even a service organization like a government department or a bank, financial services. You deliver something to your clients or customers. And if that service or the product is not available, your community, the client, the customer is affected. And that is what you call business continuity. You cannot suddenly stop the service. For example, if you are talking of Fly Dubai, if the customers cannot go and do the purchasing of tickets, if there is an outage, you don't know where it is. And ultimately, your aim is, as I said, you have to service your customer, you have to service your client, there is some stakeholders. So they get affected. And if they get affected, if they don't deliver, your reputation get affected, your business will get affected, and over a period of time, your competitors will overtake you. So this is the background of business continuity, because it is not only IT, it is IT and business. So you have to start from business and work down, and then of course all businesses today, IT is a key enabler. So it has to be thoroughly integrated, and even a small, we say a router can be a single point of failure. You have to proactively, as I think the CEO of Fly Dubai mentioned, you have to understand proactively, as this gentleman from the United Nations mentioned, you need to know what could go wrong and have your contingency plans. If you have proper contingency plans, and mind you, having plan is not sufficient, you have to test those plans. You have to create simulated situations and validate whether plans should work. If their office in Afghanistan is affected, they had a plan within 2 days to shift their staff and start operations, and it was business as usual because they had access to internet and they were able to perform, and that is business continuity. So looking at in UAE, actually there was it's very difficult to say, from 1 to 10 where organizations would be fitting, because about 3 years ago KPMG did a UAE-wide survey, and they came up with some of the issues and concerns. But it's really difficult to say, unless you do a thorough study of all the organizations, whether you are in 4 or 5. But I could say from last 3-4 years, this awareness is become very much greater, because the rate the Dubai and UAE is growing and developing, everyone has realized, all the big organizations, whether it's the public sector or the private sector, has realized that business continuity and disaster recovery is very important. And of course, there are good frameworks available. ISACA is one of their domains. COBIT is one of the domains. COBIT is part of ISACA product. So these give some sort of framework approach. And on top of that, of course, there is a British standard, BS 25999. That gives a very comprehensive framework from where you can start. So you need to start, as a holistic view, looking at the business and IT together, and find out what are the risks and what are the key business areas which really is impacting that organization, and then work out the contingency plan, and that is business continuity. So overall, I would say that UAE is really focusing on most organizations. You talk of any financial service institution or talk of any airline, they are very serious about this, and they consider, and I would say they are on a very rapid growth path. So that is the answer I could give. I don't want to
conclude that you rate them above average.
Of course.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah. My second question, I'll direct it to His Excellency Ahmed bin Hamdan regarding here in Dubai, specifically the IT departments within the entire Dubai government. Everybody is spending, investing a lot in terms of IT needs. Do you think, is it the right time now to have a specific IT law or IT policy to control the activities of the IT departments, similarly like the HR law which was devised recently? Please.
With regards to the law, I think, if we just think about the necessary law for the technology or for the e-government in general, or using, the electronic, I may ask a question maybe to the floor, or maybe to asking, does anyone know that is there any a law regarding the electronic? Maybe raise your hand if you know there is or not. I can see maybe 2, 3, 4.
Only 4 hands we have there.
4 hands, that mean they say there is. This is actually since 2002. This is actually an electronic. Dubai have issued actually a law in using the electronic. In fact, it's not about how many laws do we have, how much did we use. Now there is a law which really allow using the electronic and trying to defining, like putting a framework for the using the e-commerce, but it is not being used. Use the digital or to use the electronic media. Now there is a room of improvement, definitely there. Now, apart from the law, I think again Dubai e-government, the mandate, one of the mandate is to develop the necessary policies and regarding the electronic transformation here, and we will be taking that, but we want it to be driven by the business. We want to take the business in the front and develop what's necessary for us with regard to the risk management or even the usage of it, and not only policy. Again, it's the law. It's again the department mandate is to suggest the necessary laws for that media.
Okay, so you'll be involving people in the field themselves as well.
Well, it has to be driven by the business, and the people are part. The business, it's the people again. whether it's from the business or the private sector. But my comment here, it's not about how many law do we have or how many policies, how many they are in use.
Correct.
They have to be used, and from the usage we can maybe look how to improve them. But as far as we are concerned in the e-government department, we will take care of developing the necessary policies to improve the usage actually of the technology, or to make it more enabler to the business.
Yeah, just like you mentioned in your slide, that we have shared resources and we have common other resources which departments will be able to innovate by themselves. So like the GRP, it's a common resource area.
Yeah, that one is as far as the technology, but obviously when you try to use the technology, you need some sort of policy to govern the whole thing. Like, I mean, I think it's one of the points here in the governance. It's making available the necessary policies and procedures, because everybody they will follow and they will use the standardization. If it is there, then everybody can use. For example, if we want to pay online, what's the procedure? If we want, for example, to make join-up services, and there is again policies on that. So we'll try, we are in the process of making that policy to make X use of the technology.
Because we're running out of time, I'll give the audience an opportunity to ask a question. Is there anybody who would like to volunteer to have guts? Yes, Imad. Please introduce yourself, where you're coming from, so that the question can also be...
My name is Imad Khatib. I'm from M-Credit. I just have a question regarding BCM. BCM is apparently a new buzzword, and I'm great that Dubai is one of the few countries actually mandate that across the board. The question comes to you, which is, how would you translate BCM in a layman terms that you would allow corporate organizations or your public, or basically other executive, understand the necessity of having such things or such implementation within your corporate? That's one. The second thing, don't you see there are some factors of elements within the BCM that becomes a cost impact on any organization, and how would you address that?
Look at some of the disasters what is going on. It can be an earthquake, it can be fire. So unless you have some sort of preparedness, it will lead into unnecessary crisis and chaos. So proactively, that's why this is another aspect of it. Not only the IT processes or business processes, but also looking at what are the potential threats such as fire. So to prevent that, of course, you should have good fire detection systems, firefighting systems. You have to have trained people. It's also part of business control. So anything what disrupt the business is you have to look at proactively and mitigate that risk. And if you can communicate that to the senior management, actually this has to be driven by the top management. But normally business continuity in most organizations, it is actually who is responsible is the board responsibility. So the board has to delegate that to a very senior official who will look at the risk and implement. And that's the way forward. Of course, even to a commonest person, they talk earthquake, fire, they realize that how important it is. So I think that is one of the ways of creating awareness at top management as also among the public.
I think Mr. Rafiq also can have an input on that. How to attract the top management to support the departments?
Yeah. Just to supplement what Nalin said, the distinction between business continuity management and IT continuity is that in the case of business continuity management, is the business which drives and takes decisions pertaining to business continuity. Based on my experience in the Middle East in the last 10 years, I found that quite often what most organizations have is an IT continuity plan, not a business continuity plan. It's the IT which discusses business, what is the type of business redundancy to build in, and builds the technology for that. Actually, it should be the other way around. Business continuity management is the latest concept which says the business should be actually defining this is what we want from IT. So if you're able to make the shift from IT defining the requirements for business, the business defining what are the requirements from IT for the business, that's where I think there is a paradigm shift. In terms of rating, I think Nalin did not to respond. Based on my experience, I would say in the Dubai, the most of the organizations, based on my experience, I may be wrong. So I would say there are between 3 to 4. So they still need to do transition. Yeah. Now the question you had is pertaining to
pertaining to top management leadership support for the IT departments.
Quite often I have seen the IT department has been quite proactive in taking the initiative. What I find here is the business supports IT in taking the initiative, in taking a projects and doing as they want. But the role of the management is not just applying budgets but to IT. What is also important, if you look at the concept of IT business, is the senior management is involved in directing and channelizing how information technology is used for a strategic and competitive advantage. I find probably there is a missing link. Now, based on my experience, I also find that the IT has plans and they get informal information about business strategic plan, whereas actually it should be the other way around. The business actually shares the strategic IT plan. The representative from the IT, the head of IT or the CEO should be actively involved, should be invited to the board meeting as required for discussing aspects pertaining to the IT in terms of how IT can contribute to the business. If we can make the shift, then I think we can say that there are good IT governance practices. In most of the cases, I found the proofs are quite good. But what is missing is that link of the business getting actively involved at a senior level in setting the policy, the framework, procedures in terms of how it is being used.
And I think in addition to that process also the requirement of having an IT steering committee.
Yeah.
Exactly. I have another question, please.
Excuse me. I think just if I may comment here on this part, we can't say actually in general that there is here no connect between the IT and the business. And I know here the department, they have already linked their IT strategies with business. So we can, but it's not, I mean, as comprehensive as it should be, or as an ideal as it should be. But I think the exercise from, if we take it from 2000 onward, there is an effort in building here in Dubai in aligning the IT toward the business and making the use of that. One of the example, like as I mentioned during my presentation here, that we have a shared services, shared resources that been used by all the government department. And that one is the first in the region, and if I may say, implemented in overall the countries in the same way that we've done it here. That one, it was not just built, it was not driven by the technology. There was a business, plan, and there was an objective from the beginning, realizing the need for that and the efficiency and the return. But it is not, I mean, if we cannot say as a general, it's not, but there is an effort here, but it is not complete. There is a huge room. Everybody can really align the IT toward the business. In Dubai here, and especially, the IT is slightly faster. And that's why it's sometimes, it creates, the IT is running fast, and sometimes the IT is driving the business. Or driving not the business, but trying, making the solution and suggesting. And I agree, it has to be completely driven by the business, so we can create the highest value of the IT. Thank you.
Can I just say also, because it's very important to understand from the private sector also. For us, in general, the board, the direction of the management and the design of the product, goes hand in hand, hand in gloves. And I think it's very important to keep that focus, because the fortunate thing us in Fly Dubai, we have just moved from a project, and we just been implementing and what we've designed. And I hope we will continue that focus, because I see our strategic position, the development of our product goes hand in hand. And moving forward, we have to keep it that way. If we suddenly separate, and then the IT does not drive the business, or the business does not drive the provide